Allie Buchman with Potomac Bead Company, and I am going to be showing you today how to do a fun pair of earrings. We kind of threw it out there on our Facebook page asking you guys to name these, and I'm calling these the framed fire earrings. And they're utilizing some Czech bugles that you may not even know exist. If you do need any of the materials to make these framed fire earrings, you can look on the left-hand side here. We'll do a little drop down. The drop down will have links to all the different products listed online. Also, if you're on a mobile or a smartphone, sometimes those links won't come up. Underneath the video, there's a description box. That description box says what the video is about, and it has a little button that says show more and some down arrows. If you press on that, we'll put links underneath the description in order to do links to all the different products. So that way you can order online or make a list and go to your local Potomac Bead Company. In the middle, our kind of framed fire is going to be a 10mm Potomac crystal rivoli. And I'm doing the magic wine color. When you get the magic wine color, because the magic colors are kind of really cool, it comes in packs of 5, and you actually get different colors almost, because some of them have more of the green, some of them have more of the red. The same thing is going to be with the magic blue. But we sell them in 5 packs, and you're going to be using 2 for these earrings, 1 for each. You could also do a little pendant too if you want. In addition to my 10mm rivoli, I am using some gold ear wires, and these are just gold-filled plain ear wires. 1 pair. You can use gold plated, you can use silver, kind of up to you. In addition to that, I have 2 4mm Swarovski crystals or Preciosa, or you can even just do no crystals or seed beads. Again, up to you at the top what you want to do. In addition to the crystals that we're using and the gold ear wires, I also have some gold wire here, and this is brass eye pins. You can use head pins, you can use wire cut off the bottom. I happen to have these eye pins sitting open, so I decided to grab those. And these are about 22 gauge wire, or 21 gauge to 22 gauge wire. You'll need 2 of those, or 1 piece would even do it for you. Because we are using some wire, I do have 3 sets of pliers sitting near me. I have my round nose pliers to make my round loops. I have my wire cutters to cut that wire. And then I have some flat nose or needle nose pliers in order to kind of pinch down the end of that wire and to open and close that eye pin. In addition to the actual tools, I have my wildfire cord cutter here. Because I am using 0.006 wildfire beading thread in the green color. It's going to blend in nicely with all of my seed beads that I have going on. So other than the crystals and the hardware and the tools, the seed beads or the beads that we're using, I have the Czech bugles. So the Czech bugles in the gray rainbow, crystal gray rainbow, have a nice kind of varied color to them. Some are more gray, some have a little bit more purplish tint to them. I'm going to be using 4 per earring, so you need a total of 8 of those bugles. And these bugles are 12mm long. So you could also do this with some of the twisted bugles, which are the Miyuki bugles that we have, or you could double up to 6mm bugles and just the regular Miyuki bugles. So some ideas for you. But again, you're going to be using 4 per earring, 8 total. The silver that you see is the Crystal Labrador Full in 11O seed bead. And you're going to be using those on both the front and the back to kind of hold your actual rivoli in place. The Czech bugles create the frame, and then the actual 11Os kind of create that netting inside. So it actually looks like the crystal is suspended inside of that frame. To hold the crystals in tiny at the front, I have some 15O seed beads, and these are the silver line salmon color of seed beads. I like to use these a lot. You could use, like I said, any different colors, any different combination, and you could even use, if you want the all silver, some 11Os in the place in the middle. I'll talk about how to do that as well if you did want to go ahead and use those 11Os. To get started, we are going to put kind of all of the wires and everything to the side, and even the crystals to the side for now. Get out a size 10 beading needle on a nice workable surface, and we're going to start out by making our frame. To make the frame, go ahead and pour out your 4 crystal bugle or your crystal gray rainbow bugles, and then your 11O seed beads as well. on your needle and thread, put about 4 feet of beading thread onto that one size 10 or 12 if you'd prefer needle. So to get started, I have my needle and my thread, and I have a stop bead on the thread. If you're unfamiliar with a stop bead or what that is, it's a bead that eventually will come off the project, and it's just basically holding the beads in place so that they don't fall off the end of the thread. To create a stop bead, you're just going to put a bead on and go through it 2 times away from the tail, which is just that 2 little inch piece of thread right here. So to get started on our frame is 4 pieces, and there are 4 pieces of those 12mm Czech bugles. In between each Czech bugle, I'm going to put one of the 11-0 seed beads. So I'm putting on my needle all my Czech bugles with an 11-0 between each. I started with an 11-0, so I'm going to end with a bugle. So you can see those 4 beads go on right in a row. In between each of those 4 beads is an 11-0 seed bead. I'm going to round out the design now. My needle and thread are going to go back into the 11-0 and the first bugle that I put on the thread. And that's going to create my little picture frame. Now what we're going to do is create our little points in the corner. To create our little points, we want to go through the 11-0 seed bead after the bugle, add 3 more 11-0s, and circle back through the bugle, or back through the bead. So my thread is exiting one side of the 11-0. I add 3 beads, take my needle into the opposite side of the same 11-0, and when I pull it around in a circle, it'll bring those beads to a little point. Once again, do the same thing. So 3 beads go on, back through that same starter bead in a circular fashion and out. So you'll actually end up with 2 little points, 2 groupings of those 4 beads. So you have the grouping there on the corner that we have. That's our second grouping here. And eventually we'll add a 3rd grouping to the back side. But we have 2 on for now. After you have those 2 on, you're going to go through the bugle, the next bugle, and through the next 11-0. Again, to create my little points, 3 11s go on, back through that same 11-0. There's 1 little point. 3 more go on, back through that same 11. There's another point. Once you're through that 11-0, go next through the next bugle in line and the next 11-0. Give a nice tight pull, 3 more 11s. So you're repeating this process the whole way through the 4 sides, adding in those 2 little pointed, almost picot trims. 3 more go on, back through that same 11-0. So you're basically adding 6 beads per corner. Down through the bugle. Coming out the end. Through the 11-0. And you just kind of move that stop bead out of the way and push it to the back. Continue adding your 3 beads in that rotation. Excuse me. And that will finish up the actual little rotation there. So I have my 4 corners here with my groupings of 3. And what I'm going to do is, as I'm coming out of that last 11-0, you can see right there in the center, we're coming out of that little 11-0. Take your needle and thread up through one of the little points that you did. It doesn't matter which one. And we're going to go up through 2 beads. So we're going back around in that circle through 2 more beads till we get to the point. Once you're at that point, give a nice little tug. And you can see the thread and needle is coming out here. I'm going to spin it towards the right-hand side. At this point, you're going to go ahead and add in extra seed beads. So we're going to pick up 11 O's in a grouping of 5 11 O's, go to the next corner spot where there's that group of 3 and grab the second bead in that group of 3, or the one that will be at the corner or the point. Next, grab 5 more beads, go to the next corner and go through that central bead. Next, 5 more, and through the bead that's sticking up, that centered bead. Naturally, you have kind of 2 points. Naturally, one is going to be more centered and one is going to pop to the outside. So you're grabbing whichever one is more towards the center. When you get back to the initial side, you're going to go back through that first 11 O that your thread was coming out of. So you're putting on an additional 20 beads here in those groupings of 5. You can say we made our little frame now for our little fire Czech glass, or the little fire crystal to go inside of. It's going to sit inside of this little frame. You can see the frame's not quite tight enough that the crystal won't fall out. In order to tighten it, that's where we have those 15 O's come in handy. If you don't want to use the 15 O's, where I'm using the 3 15 O's, go ahead and just use 2 11 O's. As I'm coming out the point there, I'm going to take my thread and needle back through 4 out of the 5 11 O's along the side. My thread is going to come out then that 4th bead, add 3 15s. I'm skipping my thread then over that 5th bead, the corner bead, and the first bead of the next set of 5. You take your thread and needle through the 3 beads in the center of that next grouping of 5. Once you give a nice tight pull, you can see that kind of corners that grouping of 3. Again, you're just going through 3 out of the 5 side groupings. Add 3 15s. Go to the next side. Here's your 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just pick up the center 3. So you're not going through the 1st and the 5th bead. That creates your second point. Again, 3 more 15s go on. You're going to skip over those 3 beads there in the corner, the 5th bead in this side, the centered bead that creates the trim, and then that first bead in the next grouping of 5. Go through your 3 beads then. Bring your needle out. And you're ready to add your last corner. Right now I'm not worrying about the crystal at all because I'm going to do the exact same thing on the back of the design. That's what's going to hold my crystal rivoli in place. To finish off the front here, move that tail out of the way, skip over to that first side that your thread was coming out of, and go through the 3 11 O's. Give a nice tight pull. And that's going to actually sit a tiny bit raised off the frame. This eventually then will sit right over top of your 10mm crystal. To get the crystal to stay in place, you can see the front of the actual diamond here is going to look the exact same as the back. To do the back and to get everything kind of centered and ready to get started, I'm simply going to take my thread and needle up through the design. So I'm going up through the 5th bead, through the cornered bead, through one of the side beads here on that grouping of 4, and then through that center bead that we originally put on in between each one of our bugles, and that originally we added our 3 beads onto. Once that thread is coming out, that centered bead there, I'm going to bring the thread to the back of the project, and here's where I'm going to add my next grouping of 3. So I'm going to add, just like I did that little picot trim going through that same centered bead, add 3 beads. My thread's coming out on the left hand side. My needle is going to go into the right hand side of that same corner bead and come out the left. When it does that, I'm going to reinforce my frame and just go right along the frame here through that little bugle to the next area. Push that little stop bead out of the way, go through that corner 11-0 and add 3 more beads. So I'm, just like I said, creating that next corner or that next little picot trim going through that 11-0 just like we did in the start. The reason I don't like to go and add all 3 at once is because the top becomes a little bit jumbled. And that's why I did 2 and pulled 1 down. Also, this reinforces our frame because we're going through those bugles one more time. Take your needle and thread through the bugles. Continue creating your little frame here until you have all of your cornered beads, those 3 additional beads added. Once you've added your last little pointed trim piece there, your needle and thread is coming out that base bead, that center bead. I'm going to take the needle and thread then up through the next 2 beads, so I'm coming out that corner or that kind of middle bead. Now we're going to repeat just what we did on the starting side. So between each point, 5 11s go on, and then you're going to the next point and sewing through that bead. That's going to bring those points in towards the center, so that way we'll get an opportunity to capture our crystal in our frame. Again, 5 beads go on, go to the next corner to that third kind of pointed, that grouping of 3 into the bead that's pointing up, and add that on. You're doing this the whole way around the project, and I'm not worrying yet about the crystal. I'll worry about the crystal as I pull it in and add my 3 15-0s in place. As you get your last grouping of 5 on and go back through that original bead, I'm going to then again sew through my first 4 beads of those original 5 that I put on. And my needle is going to come out. Give a nice tight pull, and that pulls the second part, the backing of the frame, together. So you can see that it's identical on both sides. The reason I wanted to keep it identical on both sides is because one, it's an earring, and yes, it will have a front side and a back side because the different coatings on the rivolis, but it is going to spin around a tiny bit on your ear. The other thing is I wanted to make sure that you could see through the bugle and that you saw some open and empty space around the 11s. Once you're to the back and coming out the 4th bead in that group of 5, here's where we're going to go ahead and put on our 3 15s, skip over bead number 5, the center bead, and bead number 1. Catch the first 3 or the next 3 11-0s, which would be beads 2, 3, and 4 in one of those 5 groupings, and sew into those. Again, 3 more go on. Catch the next middle 3 and pull that tight. Now that I have those first 2 in there, I'm going to go ahead and drop my crystal into place. So I'm going to put it face down because I'm working on the back, but honestly it's reversible, so it doesn't matter which. I drop that crystal into its little kind of cavern there, and then continue adding my last 2 groupings of 15s, going through with 3 beads in the middle of each side of those groups of 5. And of course I need 1 more 15-0 out. Once I have those groups there, go back into the 3. And I usually like to tighten up the back and just kind of make sure that everything is nice and tight, which would require going through those 15 seed beads again and those 3 seed beads that catch them on the sides. So I'm just literally taking my needle back through my entire loop here. Once I then go around the loop, I'll end the thread right near the stop bead and simply tie the 2 threads together. If you want to and you want to tighten up the front, you can also spin your thread around to the front of the project and do the same thing, making sure that you have a nice tight catch on. So here I have the thread kind of spinning around. I've gone the whole way around in the circle, but I want to, or in the square, but I want to end my thread up right here near the stop thread. So to do so, on is going to go the thread through those 11 O's, back through the 15s, and back through the 11s. As I come through those 3 11 seed beads, I'm then going to go up the side along the side here through the 5th bead and through that centered bead, and I'm just working my thread up back around that kind of right angle unit, actually is what it is, back till I get right next to the stop bead. When I'm right next to the stop bead, go ahead and kind of bend that little trim out, pull your stop bead off if you can, or at least down far enough that you can get it off. Take your 2 thread ends then and simply tie the 2 thread ends together. I do square knots, right over left, left over right. One thing at the beginning of the video I forgot to mention is if you do like to glue, I usually have some super new glue handy. The other thing you can do is use your thread burner to create stop beads by burning a little bit up from the knot and then burning down directly onto the knot, which will cause the thread to kind of curl up on itself and create a stop. And there you have the second little framed fire. To get this framed fire piece actually on an ear wire, that's where we're going to get back to our wire, our ear wire, our 4mm crystal, and grab out from next to you. You can kind of tuck the thread and the needle in, and it's time to grab our pliers. So to grab our pliers, we have our eye pin here. And this eye pin just came out of one of our boxes here that we use at the store. So it's bent up a little bit. I'm just going to kind of round it out with my round nose pliers. Once I have that rounded out loop, I want to open up the loop with my needle nose pliers by pulling the loop to the side. Go ahead and grab your piece, go to one of the corners, doesn't matter which one, and take that eye pin through the cornermost 11 seed bead. So it's thin enough that it'll fit directly through the seed bead. Anything 22 gauge, 21 gauge to 22 gauge should fit through the 11 seed bead. Bend that eye pin back straight. Once you have that on there, go ahead and put on your 4mm crystal onto the wire there. And we're going to make a coiled eye pin right above the wire. If you're not into wire working or you don't want to do this technique, you could also just make a loop out of seed beads. That's your other option. Holding your crystal, kind of bend your pliers, holding them at the very tip of the round nose to the side. Bring the wire over top of the pliers to kind of make a loop. Spin the pliers and bring the wire back to 90 degrees. If you aren't familiar with making coiled eye pins, I also have a video you can search. Anytime you need a search, you can go back to our opening page on YouTube, the youtube.com/PotomacBead Co. and our Potomac Beads, you can go there and there's a little magnifying glass. If you type in the magnifying glass any of the materials or techniques or anything, it'll specifically search our page. So if you want to do coiled eye pins, you can search there. I'm going to take that extra little piece of brass and go around the loop to create the coil 3 times. Grab your wire cutters and go ahead and cut the extra wire that's there. With your needle nose pliers, go ahead and pinch down on the extra wire. Grab your ear wire, slide to the side so you have that opening. Go ahead and hang it on there and close it up. And that's going to get you your ear wire completed and done. Since I didn't go ahead and put the ear wire on here, I'll show you again. What I do whenever I'm opening an ear wire, slide that loop to the side, put your loop on, and close it up. And then you're completely finished with your framed fire earrings. So I really like these, that they're elegant yet fun. You can wear them in all different occasions. I might even stick mine on now just to kind of have on and wear for fun. You could use a whole bunch of different seed beads too if you wanted to get a different look. You can pull them in differently around the center, but the 10mm rivoli really is going to look like it's floating inside of that frame, and that's the effect that I really wanted to have. Again, if you need any of these materials, back at the beginning of the video, we do the little drop-down list along the side, or if you're on a mobile or a mobile device, right underneath there's the description. You can get the links to purchase any of these things that you may need, the Czech bugles or even my Yuki bugles, and then the Potomac crystal rondelles and the seed beads as well. As always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I really had fun kind of remaking and making these and kind of figuring out the exact measurement to make it really simple and easy for you guys to kind of pick up, have a fun earring, elegant seed bead earring that you can get done really quickly. If you want to stay connected with us, you can also like this page and subscribe to this YouTube channel to get regular updates on different projects that I do, information about products that are coming out, information about the store and the changes that we go through, and more interaction with us there. You can also visit us online again at PotomacBeads.com and purchase your materials from there, or print out your list and go to your local Potomac Bead Company store. If you want to stay connected with us even more, you can't get enough of us, you can even visit us on Facebook. And on Facebook, you can ask to become a member of our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making. There, people post all different pictures of things that they've done and the projects that they've made and questions that they may have that you could probably help them out answering. It's a wonderful forum of different artists and creators and people that really love jewelry, have a passion, and are really a great group of people that really kind of look out for each other, offer each other advice and praise, and really interact well. So those are some ways that you can enjoy interacting with us as well as other people's, staying connected to us, and really having fun in the jewelry creating world. Remember, you're not an island out there. The cool thing is you have YouTube, even if you don't have a store near you, and you can connect with other beaders that way. As always, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy making these framed fire earrings.